Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wagmi TV. We got a great one for you today. We're talking about the Ethereum Shanghai Upgrade and Capella Hard Fork. So it's one of the last steps here leading up to sharding and kind of completing the proof of stake movement for Ethereum. So we're going to talk potential impacts and dive right in. So Mata, you want to start off with a little overview?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we mentioned it a couple weeks back. Ethereum's been some of the only good news I feel like we've gotten out of the last year in this kind of bear market, right? So we had the Ethereum merge, went on without a hitch, no validator attacks, no downtime, successful, right? I think the big thing on that was there was no impact on scalability. It was really just a change to that consensus mechanism, right? So what this Shanghai piece is, they've actually finalized a date of April 12th for the upgrade to go live. It was tentatively supposed to take place back in March, but that was obviously delayed a few weeks. But essentially, this will make it possible for Ethereum validators to unstake ETH and any rewards that they had while staking that ETH. It's really that, again, that last stage, one of those last stages on getting Ethereum to a proof of stake chain. So I think there's kind of two different big effects that this could actually have on Ethereum. One is obviously the effect on price. There could be a pretty serious unlock here where people are actually starting to, create a little bit of sell pressure with Ethereum as we move forward. They might even be bullish on Ethereum. So I think we have a couple takes there. The other piece, right, is what is the impact that this has on crypto regulations in the US and elsewhere? And so there's kind of two different directions here. Do we want to comment first kind of through some of the price pieces and then move into the regulations?
Yeah, that sounds good. I think we can start with price. And I think you put it pretty well, Mata. I think the main concern is that there's, now a bunch of Ethereum that can be unlocked and actually be sold, whereas before it couldn't be. But there are some interesting kind of back and forth takes on where the price action is actually going to go. And somewhat of the side that's saying, hey, it's actually not going to have too much sell pressure. It kind of comes off of this type of figure right here. So we're looking at how much staked ETH is in profit. We do have quite a bit overall that's in profit. So just under 50% of all the ETH staked is actually in the green. But then when we look at significant profit, so supply of ETH stake that's in profit of 20% or more, we're only looking at about 30% staked. Not to say that that's still not a lot of Ethereum, right? It'd be weird if we didn't see any sell pressure, but I think, a lot of people have been kind of touting, hey, we're going to see, a massive drop off in the chart and all this stuff. But in all reality, it's probably a little bit more tame than a real big dump or something like that.
Yeah, and I think it's something where we could see protocols like Lido really rip here because you're giving people the opportunity to unstake their ETH that maybe has been staked since, December 2020, times when these prices were super high. Put that now unstaked ETH into Lido and earn some extra APY on it. So, I think there's more options now in the ecosystem, in the Ethereum ecosystem, than what was there in December 2020. So people, probably feel like they've got different places where that ETH can go. And so, yeah, this is, like Mata said, this super big upgrade. It's the last step in that proof of work to proof of stake shift. And it's really something that's going to be an upgrade focused on the execution layer. And so something we're seeing is that this is also the biggest update, something I don't think is being talked about a lot. It's the first update in the Ethereum virtual machine since 2015. And that's something that's supposed to make it more efficient, easily upgradable, maybe a better developer experience. So not only is there the talk about, unstaking, price pressure here, but also, there could be some more efficiencies that we see within the Ethereum developer experience.
And I think that's also super important, right? Because we always say, follow the money, follow the developers, right? And so if Ethereum makes these updates and they're able to be a little bit more attractive to, some of these developers here moving forward, that could be massive for ETH in in the long term. So right in the short term, right, maybe a little bit of sell pressure. You never know. This has been locked up for a long time. Maybe someone wants to go and buy a home or do something else with that cash that they've essentially had, locked up. Or maybe the opposite, right? They've seen the roller coaster that is the crypto market. They've seen it drop down towards like the $1,000 mark and now move its way back up towards 2,000. You never really know what's going to happen with these. And so we just have to wait and see. But I think the way that Ethereum and the way that Vitalik always thinks is more on that long-term mission of really making this the chain that, developers want to flock to and people want to flock to. So I think all in all, really, really bullish from that perspective.
Yeah, and I think it's something where, obviously we have the Shanghai coming up. I think you said April 12th, right, Mata? And then the day right after that, we have the Capella upgrade, which is that change to the consensus layer. And so, there's a lot of changes coming to put that finalized stamp on proof of stake. But it's something that is super exciting because when you look down the road here and you look, what are the implications of this? Well, that next step in the Ethereum roadmap is sharding. And that brings in a whole new discussion, talking about layer twos, talking about efficiencies, gas prices. And so I think it's like, it's a stepping stone, but it's super exciting to talk about because of what's coming down the road here.
Absolutely. And I think the last piece we want to kind of dive into, and that was fantastic points from both of you guys. I think the last piece we want to dive into is the regulation implications, right? Because there's some talks about whether or not Ethereum is going to be, or staked Ethereum, is going to be classified as security or not. We don't know what the SEC is going to do there. Previously, they've said that Ethereum is not a security. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I don't know if you guys have a take on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, right? The SEC has been pretty clear that, they're like every crypto except for Bitcoin is a security, right? Gensler especially goes after kind of these staked proof of stake chains and saying that they would need some pretty strict regulation. So right now, while we're still going through this, Ethereum is still kind of looked at as technically a proof of work chain, right? Until the unstaking is allowed, which is essentially what's going to be happening here with this this Shanghai upgrade. And so it really is a question of what the SEC's interpretation of ETH could be after this upgrade actually happens, right?
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. I know we've got other very active lawsuits in the crypto sphere with, XRP, with the ongoing stuff with Coinbase Earn around like their staking stuff that they have. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm hoping that, this merge from proof of work to proof of stake, it is bullish for Ethereum and they can talk through it. But yeah, once again, we're just never going to know until, some more clear guidelines are put together by the SEC here.
Yeah, it's even interesting though. Really, we're unsure of how likely all this is to happen and what's going to go down. It is interesting to see, though, that some protocols are really starting to take some precautionary measures. I know we were talking about this, and you had mentioned them earlier during this episode, Evan, about Lido. So Lido Finance, for example, first of all, they're staking almost a third of all staked ETH right now. And so they actually recently announced that they'll be releasing NFTs that represent Ethereum unstaking requests. And so, yes, that's kind of small, but it's also a very significant detail. NFTs to this point have not been subject to the same scrutiny as other crypto categories from the SEC. So, SEC even recently signed off on a crypto project we were talking about at Freeport that actually fractionalizes works of art into NFTs. So the idea is that this process could help protect the protocol from some of this regulatory scrutiny that's coming their way. So could start to see others follow suit, but I assume the SEC will still find a way to go after them. And, it is really interesting to see. We don't know what's going to happen. People are trying to kind of manage that risk, including some of these protocols here moving forward. But I think, Sia brought up a great point before we actually hopped into this episode, is that some pretty serious regulation is likely coming, especially with the mention of Fed coin. Sia, do you want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, just really, really briefly. I think that's a good point to bring up. It's expected at least between May and July at some point. The Federal Reserve is coming out with a program called Fed Now that's going to launch a Fed coin and essentially be the first, government oriented blockchain and coin. It seems like there's not too many details on it right now, so we're not totally sure if they're going to, be building it on a chain, have it be their own chain. So a lot of that's still kind of to be discovered and to be understood. But it's essentially going to back the SEC and the U.S. government, and I think a lot of other governments, into a corner where they're going to have to make decisions on this, where previously it was pretty out of their purview, right? I mean, it was all these different protocols, coins, projects acting independently, where now they're actually going to be involved in this type of technology, and they're going to have an opinion on it, by at least the end of this year, if not earlier, if the Fed coin predictions actually turn out to be accurate of a launch this summer. So they're going to have to make a decision on where they stand on this kind of stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see it finally come to a head, whereas before they kind of just kicked the can down the road.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, a single state try to make a cryptocurrency when you think about crypto being a decentralized, global, worldwide network. So, obviously I have my doubts, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see this summer how that works out. But no, that's a great thing to bring up when you're talking about regulation and some of these implications that could come down the road. Yeah.
Let's hope it gets so ugly that they decide just to scrap it and it doesn't happen. Let's hope that happens. But awesome. I think those were all some great points. I think everyone's excited about what's coming for Ethereum. Obviously, Evan made the great point of saying, the next step is sharding, right? I think that's really what everyone's waiting for, but Shanghai was a critical step. And so hope you guys enjoyed this. We talked through a little bit of the implications of Shanghai, and we're all looking forward to it. But if you like the content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and tune in for some more episodes. But until then, Wagmi.